Oh boy. Welcome back, everybody. Oh, it's gonna be a day. It's gonna be a day. Pop out the chat. Floor is covered in Cheerios. It's gonna be a thing. All right, it's Friday, so we have the viewer suggestion. I'm also going to try to finish up some commissions that we have going on here. Yeah, I don't know what else we got going on. It's just it. I'm just going to hang out. So, hope everybody's having a fine week. I think we're all just emotionally exhausted, and that's fine. It's a fine place to be. Hi, kid. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yeah. Gobble, 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 gobble. Elliot, welcome in. Alexander, welcome as well. I can see the starting screen and I hear a Rookzer0 Artwork. Rookerino. Let's get the actual page set up here.
Oh good, I'm not as late as I thought it was.
No,
Hello.
I started a little late just because I was dealing with stuff. And by dealing with stuff, I mean watching political news things that I shouldn't have been watching. I've got lots of spice. I got lots of spice today.
Hello.
And I'm gonna try to refrain my spice.
I'm just tired. It got really cold last night, and I feel basically exactly like Mary Shelley described people who were getting fed on by Dracula.
Emaciated or like sexy?
Emaciated,
Okay.
drained, exhausted.
Tikka masala. That sounds pretty good. There's something wrong with this goblin. Druid, I'm sorry you feel tired. I
No, it's
also
fine.
feel tired.
It's honestly, you know what? Today I'll take tired over politically spicy. I don't
Sure.
have enough energy to be politically spicy.
That's my problem. Is I've
I'm
put
grateful
all
for
my
that.
energy into the spice, and now I'm just empty. I got nothing left.
You spice?
You spicing? Spice.
So what's wrong with this goblin?
I don't know. That's the problem. Like I think I did all of the stuff I normally do, like with the lighting layers and the such. But like I think I've just like fever dream did it. And it just doesn't feel finished. It feels sloppy. And part of me is like, well, let's just start over. But I don't want to do that.
Yep.
So like
yeah.
I'm trying to find the spots that are really making me feel like I'm it's not doing what I want. But it might be that I might have too much processing on it, and I might actually have to just redo some of these layers. So that could be the problem.
I mean, currently, from what I'm seeing, it looks nice. Without all the shading and highlights on it.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Like I think what I mean by fever dream is like I was like, oh, I need a shadow layer, and then another shadow layer, and a light layer, and another light layer, and it's just like it's too much almost. Ooh, my kid, you all right? Woo woo woo.
Oh.
Poor kid. He's fine. WJ, welcome in.
Hi.
Fun fact, one of the most dangerous moves in pro wrestling is called the Burning Hammer, as hammers of fire is a big staple of fantasy art. Nice. I know the lariat and the suplex. Maybe the people's elbow. I remember the people's elbow. That's a good one. It's a bright character. Yeah, initially it was too dark, and so I tried to pop it up a little bit with this layer, which I think helped. So I think I'm going to start here. I think I'm going to start with this, and then we'll re-look at the shadow layer, and then we might call it. Because like I want the hand to pop out, so I want the hand to be brighter than the rest of the body. This is not a light layer. This is a composite layer.
Oh, we're back.
No problem. I had a long conversation with Jump Rope this morning about DMing styles.
Uh-huh.
I found a video of Brandon Lee Mulligan and Jake Tapper? I think it's Jake Tapper. Oh, kid, did you just dunk your head into the desk again? You do not belong down here. That's why I put the box up, so you couldn't get down there, and you bypassed it.
Never underestimate a dog, a cat, or a toddler's ability to get into where they're not supposed to.
Yep. Anyways, it was like, as sticker purposes. What does it look like without the background? Yeah, like the background actually, it looks pretty good. I made it darker so I could really look at the edges. Jake Tapper and Brandon Lee Mulligan talking about railroading.
Uh-huh.
And it's really good because Jake Tapper's like, I want to write a story and have people do the thing that I wrote. It's like, that's fair. That's a legitimate thing. But like, how do you do that versus a sandbox, right? Like everybody, no one wants to be railroaded, but sandboxes generally don't lead to good stories. And I think the overall, this is the conversation we had. The overall aspect of it is really like, it doesn't matter if you do a sandbox or you have a railroad, as long as you're good at telling a story. And like, knowing how to tell a good story is really hard. And like that's really the best thing about being a DM is learning how to tell a good story.
Yeah, which basically translates to learning how to be a writer.
Yeah, and that's not easy. Like that's years of practice to become a writer. And something I used to do for the freshman classes at the university was like, tell me the story of Mario, like the game, the Mario, just Super Mario Brothers, and
the first one,
yeah. And it's like, tell it to me in one sentence, then tell it to me in a paragraph, and then tell me more about the world, right? Like, and I think a lot of people don't do that when they're writing their stories. They just like, they sit down and they're like, I want to write this huge open Skyrim world. And they kind of lose focus on the player. Like, what's the player doing? How does the player interact with that? What's really important to the player? Because at the end of the day, Mario is literally like, don't step on don't touch the turtles, don't fall in the holes, save the princess. Like, that's it.
Pretty much.
And so it's I might make a series about it. I don't know. I might talk about it. And I haven't thought about that yet, but
yeah. I'm really curious as to why people actually... I don't think I have ever actually seen in any of the Let's Plays somebody actually do a 100% sandbox.
Right. Yeah. And that's I think the... Kid, you want to be on the floor? What's your plan here? Here you go get some shit. I gave him a bowl of Cheerios this morning, and I've cleaned it up 3 times, and now it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Yeah. So the thing that got me about it with Jake Tapper, I'm pretty sure it's Jake Tapper. I'm gonna have to check that. But he said Brandon Lee Mulligan's like, or you could do a sandbox and let the players basically tell the story and have weave a rich tapestry of whatever, in the way Brandon says it. And Jake's like, and let's just hope that they find that minecart that I put there, and then they go to the dungeon that I want. And it's like, yeah, I mean, like, that's the problem with sandboxing. And and I've done that in the past, and when I've tried to sandbox in my experience with sandboxes, the best way to sandbox is to fly by the seat of your pants, right? Like, plan nothing. Like, sandboxes work when you plan nothing. And you let the players write the story. And that can be a lot of fun. But you have to have, like, that's where, like, I think people start using, like, random monster encounters or, like, random dungeons. And I would argue, and this is what Jump Rope and I were talking about, and I actually have a good. Remind me to come back to this if I lose it, Druid. Your because we said the Chimney Man encounter you ran was good, and I have I have an example for that. If you want a sandbox, and my perspective of it is, put people on the rails by planning things you want and then letting people find them naturally.
Yeah.
Right. So, I want to run a dungeon. Design your dungeon so that it is a fun, active encounter, that it's beautiful and like well paced. So you have a mini story you want to tell with just that dungeon, and then wait until your players find a place in the world for that dungeon to fit, and put it there, right? And I feel like that's the nuance between railroading and just pure sandboxing, and that's the story, right? Like being able to tell a story by finding your story points in the world that the players want to find. And that is kind of railroady, right? It's like, regardless of what the players do today, they're going to end up in this dungeon. It's like, that's a railroad. It's like, yeah, but it's the journey of how the players get there that makes it feel railroady or not. And so,
I'm back, by the way.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back. I think something that we've been playing a game with Lars and Kevin the Necromancer. They've been running campaigns for us, and both of them felt kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we talked about it and looked at it, it's like they're set up like JRPGs. Like that's why they feel weird, because both Kevin and Lars grew up with Final Fantasy and love like tactics and RPG games like that.
Yeah.
And I think the introductions always feel kind of strange, because you get thrown into the game, you do the game tutorial, you learn how to play your character, you get the like brief understanding of where you fit in the world, and then the paradigm shifts and the story starts, right? You go to a title screen, you see the open world map, you walk out of Breath of the Wild and you see the grand world in front of you, and then the game and the story starts. And I think that's an interesting concept for video games, because it's like you need the tutorial, right? You need the tutorial, you need to understand those things. But with D&D, if that's what you want to do, that title screen has to be like one session or less. Because as soon as something becomes 2 or 3 sessions, and this is what I think happened with Kevin the Necromancer, he put us on a boat for like 6 months before we actually like started the story. By the time we got to that point, everything that we had anticipated and like learned about the world and were like ready to get into got thrown away because it was the introductory zone. And it's just like,
right,
I don't care about the new story. I want to go back to the old story and finish that. And they're like, no. It's just it's time now to do the thing. And it's like, but that's a different story that I'm not invested in at all. And then you don't like, so now go out in the world and explore. And it's like, I don't know what to know or care about right now, right?
Right.
So I because I don't want to tell people like, hey, don't sandbox, right? Because sandboxing is fun. Oh, kid. Poor kid. Oh, sad boy. Oh, sad boy. Hello. He hasn't had a nap yet today, so he's going to be a little cranky.
Also, I have to ask, why did you bring up CNN reporter Jake Tapper?
I swear that's that guy's name. Hold on.
Are you talking about Mike
you're talking
Trapp?
about Trapp. Yeah. I think
No. Trapp is Trapp. Maybe I'm thinking about Mike Trapp. Hold on. Hey, don't eat that.
Because Tapper is the
Jake
CNN
Tapper is the
reporter.
CNN guy. You're right. Hold on.
Yeah.
Who's kind of an asshole.
I think, so you're the...
No,
show
I'm
you
not
were
thinking of
talking
Trapp.
about-
I know Trapp.
You're not thinking about Trapp? You're talking about the show where 2 people sit down and they basically each are assigned like debate style different sides of an argument, right?
Maybe I can just find the video real quick.
Yeah, I came in and heard Jake Tapper as in Brindley Mulligan. I was like, they
They
may
run in
have
very
met,
different circles.
but they have never have done anything together.
Yeah.
I swore I posted this in Mean Cat. Did it get...
Sorry for derailing.
No, you're fine. Okay. I've put it. It's in meme chat. It just didn't.
You did. It's an Instagram. Yeah. What's better to way to DM a railroad or sandbox?
Yeah. So who's the other person talking to Brennan right now?
That's Zacho.
Ayama. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ayama.
Zach
For some
Oyama.
reason, I conflated, probably because of kid. Holy crap! Chill out. He's just spinning. Stop. No, stop. Okay, I'm gonna turn off that monitor completely. You don't get to look at that anymore. Yeah, Zach. I totally thought his name was JT. But every time I said it, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, that doesn't sound right, but it sounds right. I think it's because of Trap. I think it is because of Trap. So I just mixed all the names together. Jordan, welcome in.
Hey, Jordan.
Yeah, Trav has also said that a lot of people will like call him like Trip all the time. He's like, it's not my name.
Yeah.
It's not Trip. It's Trap with two P's.
All right, I'll be right back. 1 second. I gotta deal with this kid.
Sure.
Okay.
Hang tight. Drew, do you want to draw today? You feeling in a drawing mood?
No.
You can say no. It's fine.
It's a complicated yes and no. I would like to be able to draw. I don't think I've got more than like one drawing in me.
Okay, I'm gonna turn Aggie on then, and you can just—it's the same like as last time. And I will
All
not
right.
put it on. Be right back. We'll just switch it over to Aggie and let you guys hang out while I go deal with the boy, because he is. I think he needs a diaper change and then a nap. So I might be 5-10 minutes. Give me a second.
Okay, sounds good.
Kid, oh my goodness.
In the meantime, I'll give mine 2 cents on the.
And then don't forget.
topic.
Don't remind me to talk about the Chimney Man when I come back.
Okay, yeah. So, like, chat, my perspective on it is that neither pure railroading or sandboxing is very good. Like, I think a lot of people kind of mean when they talk badly about railroading is what they're really describing is being seat belted into an airplane seat. Really, like they're along for the ride for the story, but not really able to participate in it, and that's bad DMing and that's bad storytelling. Right? Like if that's the type of story a person wants to write, then they should be working in a different medium, because that's not D&D. And a full-on sandbox it's really like Minecraft, in that nothing is planned, nothing happens, everybody just kind of pulls shit out of their ass and flings it at the wall and sees if anything creative happens with it. And I don't think either are good approaches for D&D. I think that you need a combination of both. I think what you really need is a world that has stuff happening outside of what the players are doing and options for the players to interact with. I think a 100% sandbox is basically you build a world and then like Rook said, you leave everything up to the players and whatever they do happens. And that is a sure way to make players who are not invested in a world, which translates immediately into murder hobo. Even the most benign player will become a murder hobo under that situation because nothing in the world matters. Anyway, that's my perspective on it.
Railroad all your players. They don't need freedoms in the game. It's your story, not theirs. I kid, of course.
If you're gonna build a railroad for your players, build a whole ass railroad. Give them stops along the way where they get to choose their next destination.
A literal railroad.
A literal railroad, lots of branching paths, and they get to opt into where they're going. Do you think of theme park designing? Set up a bunch of potential adventures and set what rides. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, actually, as a metaphor. And they can also get to decide if they're going to stick around in Adventureland or let's see, what are all the Disney sub theme parks?
Too many.
Yeah. You can hang out in the kid area, you can hang out in the fantasy area, you can hang out in the retro futuristic area with all the space operas. I think Brooke forgot to switch us over to Aggie. Oh well.
Yes, he did.
Okay. This kid is driving me crazy.
You forgot to swap this over, Rook.
I forgot to what?
To Aggie. You forgot to swap the camera to Aggie.
Oh, Jesus Christ. There we go.
It's fine. I haven't managed to actually draw anything worth going yet anyway. But,
What do you think of theme park designing? Set up a bunch of potential adventures and see what rides they want to get on. I like
as a metaphor instead of
as a
railroading.
metaphor. That's not bad. The problem is that you end up spending time with like designing all of the rides, and then most of them will probably never get used. I think it's a much better idea to design a theme park that has undisclosed number of rides, give them options, and then when they pick one, design that ride. Right, like which takes a little more time, a little more finessing, but
A little more fast thinking sometimes too.
right, but that's the trick to writing, right? Like that's the trick
Yep.
to and so what I've run into is I've done a little bit of doing the design, theme park design, right? And so the railroad is that I'm going to sequentially put you through these, right? That's a dungeon. I've built these rides, and you're going to have to go through them one at a time to get out. That being said, you can include branches and forks that, once again, they're like the illusion of choice. So like, hey, there's two options here. If you pick A or B, they go A, and then the next time you have a fork, it's B and C, right? Like, you keep reusing the options until they do the story you want to use, so you don't have to keep reinventing stuff. And that's a good thing about video games is essentially that's how video games are run. Like, there's a dungeon, and we're going to give you 4 branching paths, but you have to go down every path to continue on. Right? So it feels more sandboxy than it is.
Also, Chimney Man.
Yeah, Chimney Man. So I think the Chimney Man was a really good concept, and that started with us choosing to do it, right? So like, we've already forgone the part of us naturally running into it in the world, and you kind of did that with, like, you gave us a book, right? That was the hook. Like, hey, there's a story coming up. It's like, cool, we're interested in that, and then you can develop it, right? That's smart. Yeah, kid, you were so tired. Just go take a nap. Yeah, I hear you, kid. Apparently I have to hold him and stand up, so I'm going to talk while standing up. He's so tired. He's just rubbing his face and like, ah. And every time he's about to fall asleep, he just jerks himself awake. He's like, no!
Too much stimulation.
Yeah. No, stop it. Just go to sleep.
Go sleep.
With the Chimney Man, I like basically what we did with the Chimney Man. We had the setup for it, and we went there, and then it kind of got destroyed by burning just running to the boss, right?
Yep.
And so that is a problem of like, Are you alright, kid? What's going on? What's going on? Sorry guys. I'm getting really distracted, I think. What is that? You not feeling it?
For context for chat, Chimney Man was a slightly modified animate dream that I ran in 2nd edition Pathfinder. The hook for the story was there's like an old kind of cryptid sort of fairy tale that gets passed around kind of the poorer district of town, that there is a creepy man in a like stovepipe hat that people sometimes see shadows on rooftops around chimneys in the middle of the night, and like it's an old tale told to kids to like stay away from the hearth after fire's been banked in the evening. That like it's the story is that the chimney man will come down the chimney and steal naughty children who are up past their bedtime, sort of deal. And like that was just something that I wrote for the world, and then Corvus said that his character would be really interested in it, which I knew because we all know that Corvus is really into cryptids, right?
No, me.
No, yeah, no.
I would also just like to preface.
Yeah.
It started out with me just taking a thing off a community board and keeping it in my pocket for almost an entire year.
Yeah. So it was something that I had meant to like explore if the party was interested in it anyway. And when we got to a point where I could basically have fun with monsters of a high enough level that we could conceivably run it, is basically when I pulled the rest of, or when I started to really truly set up the story. So they went to a haunted house basically, and found what are ostensibly ghosts of neglected children who are possessing piles of toys. Attic Whisperers is, I think, the name of the monster in 2nd edition Pathfinder. They're really fun and really creepy, and it was kind of a low level encounter for the group. They didn't have too much trouble with it, and I was mostly just trying to like psychologically terrify people with that encounter. And then as part of that is they found a book about Chimney Man, and that was kind of the hook that led things. And then there was also another hook where the guild was not taking the story like really seriously, but in the wealthier part of town, children had actually started going missing. And that's where we kind of started, and I peppered in little bits of the story, and the party eventually went to an old abandoned house that had been burned down. No, this house hadn't been burned down.
It was the orphanage.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and that's where I want to pick up the thread. Like everything up to that point, I think, was really good and solid. And I'm not by any means saying any of it was bad. But like up to that point, we had just been
fumble at the end.
We'd just been investigating, right? And that's fun. Like that can be a fun state of play, is just investigating. And then we got to like the culmination of the fight, which was this building. We're like, okay, we think the Chimney Man's here, and I think your intent, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was to have us clear the house, and then when we finally get to the attic, we fight the big bad guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the intent. It was supposed to be more creepy sort of investigation and dealing with more lower level ghosts.
Yeah.
Leading up to a big fight.
The problem was that you had put a stairwell right in the middle of the house. Mm-hmm. And so one of our party members, which was Burning, just went there and went right up to the boss and kicked the hornet's nest, right?
Well, correction. Their familiar did.
It doesn't matter. Like, that's the point. So the thing is,
same difference.
That was because, and I think the reason that happened that way was because you had adhered strictly to like a direct plan, right? Like, you had the rails you wanted, and we didn't do it. And so I think this is where, like, the sandboxy part of it comes into play the most. I think something that could have made that encounter a little more interesting and could have been a little more, like, a better story would have been to basically have the house and set up haunts. So that as you go through the house, it doesn't really matter where we go. Let us explore the way we want to explore naturally. And then every time we go into a room, you get to enact part of that haunt until we do the correct sequence of haunts you want, and you feel like it is now time to get the boss in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is, because, like, you already had pretty much things planned for the whole house, right? But it was then up to the players to have, like, the insight to do it in the way you wanted, right?
Yeah,
and that's just almost never going to happen. And I think that is the fundamental flaw with people trying to create sandboxes, is, like, it's hard to write a story when you don't know what the players are going to do. And so you have to write the story in a way that lets the players tell it, which is unique to RPGs, right? Like, that's not how video games work. That's not how books work. That's not how TV or anything works. And so I think that's kind of the important thing to look at when you want to write a story that feels sandboxy, is like, how do I take this story that I write out and let the players tell it? So yeah, that was something Jump Rope and I were talking about this morning, and she kind of brought that up. It was like, that was a good encounter, but, like, the players kind of jumped the story, right? Like, because the story of that house. So if you would have made the house a haunt, that could have been a completely different encounter. Completely different.
Yeah. We hadn't played around with the haunt mechanic yet at all, though. So, like, I wouldn't have known how to do it yet, which I think is I'm not going to call that a failure on my part. I think that's just because you know the whole point of this was to explore. So
and that was still fun. Like, it was a fun campaign.
It's just a thing to learn. So I like. Also, I think specifically the thing that I think you're right in that I was trying to write it kind of railroady, but, like, in practice, like, things all fell apart because I didn't design it, but to force you guys to stick to the railroad, which is kind of like the fundamental problem, and what you're proposing with the haunts is one solution to that problem. I think that the big thing that let it down is that, like, it's, as a GM, and this is the biggest problem with sandboxing in general. As the GM, you can never actually accurately predict what your party's going to do. The specific reason that the fight triggered was because I had a specific idea for the architecture of the building, and I prioritized that over the potential storytelling. Because I was like, oh, it's an attic. There's probably not going to be a door to it. It's just going to be older rickety stairs that lead up to the top, and, like, they'll know, right? Like, it's a creepy house. They'll take it a step at a time. And of course you didn't, because of course you didn't, because of course Burning didn't, because he has a flying familiar that can do whatever the fuck they want.
Scout the house.
Yeah. So, and, like, scouting the house with your familiar is a really, really good tactic. That is exactly what I would have done if I had been in Burning's position, probably. So I can't fault you guys for it at all. It really did. And I don't think, like, it was a tough fight. It was significantly harder than it needed to be. Because things went out of order, and I was like, oh, well, I felt like it needed to make sense with everything that I had set up. And that's specifically because I'm not great at flying by the seat of my pants. I'm not great at improvising. I really kind of have to stick mostly with what I've prepared, um, which is also why I'm pretty actually very careful to plan encounters that are always going to be pretty difficult, but also are always going to be doable
Yeah,
to
what
the
was the
best of
thing
my ability.
Corvus said to me the other day, like, part of the reason that last fight we did on my campaign was so scary is because we hadn't had a chance to rest yet.
Yeah.
Welcome in, Bri. And like, I took that into account. Like, I wanted to kind of like rush you guys along to get you to a point where you couldn't just decide like, yeah, we're gonna fuck this thing up. That's like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
point is to be a little on edge. And like,
Well, it was less that I said I was scared. I was more like how
hampered.
I guess, yeah, hampered, because I was running out of things to use.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like,
So that fight, and I don't want to spoil it because it's part of the Patreon game that I want to set up.
Mm-hmm.
But the intent of that fight was, it's just like
to hinder us.
well to set you off guard, right? Like, it's not just a dungeon where you go in and there's a monster in the hallway and you fight it and you win, right? It's like, there's just weird shit here. Like, because I never intended you guys to fight and kill it. It was always going to be kind of one of those, like, it's probably just going to run away. You might kill it, which would be fine. But the real intent was just to like keep you on your toes and show you that like the traps in this dungeon might not be obvious.
Yeah.
And they might not be traditional. So you guys did great with it. I'm really sad the horse didn't get eaten, but but it went to plan pretty well. And part of that was me, like, I think the reason it worked as well as it did is because Jonas walked into the thing.
Yep.
Set off the trap, and I didn't initially kick it. I didn't kick the pig because I saw that Dagon was doing something, and I'm like, I'm gonna wait for Dagon to finish doing this, give him the information he asked for his role, and then everything, like, just all hell's gonna break loose. And I think that's the important part about Sandbox. Like, even though this is already a pre-set up dungeon, it's ready to go. The DM still needs to take the time to make a narrative out of it.
Yep.
And with Rise of the Rune Lords, something that I always thought was interesting is they give you a dungeon, and then it sets it up for the DM saying, okay, this person is here, but he's going to go walk and talk to this person. So if the players just beeline it to the boss, like the person they're trying to find, they just happen to just pick the right doorways and get there, these 3 people are going to be there, and you have a boss encounter. If they don't, and they go over here and they set off a trap, this person's going to move. And so, like, the dungeon is set up in a couple different ways depending on what the players do. And that always to me is like, makes so much more sense than you always just walking into a room and they're being like, I am the war chief and these are all of my guys that are just standing here waiting for people to come attack us.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's the video game mentality of it, right? Like, that's the way we kind of think about, like, oh, this is the boss room. And I think the narrative can bring a lot more to that if you really like want to, right? Some people don't. Some people just want the boss fight that way so that it is a straight mechanic fight, and that can be a lot of fun too. I really like arcadey style play, but yeah, I think these are all different styles of DMing that aren't traditionally just railroady or sandboxing. Like, you have to have a little of both.
Yeah. 100%. You have to have a little bit of both. I actually don't know anybody that I would be comfortable playing in a 100% sandbox with.
Yeah, and I really do think, like, when we used to do that when I was in college, we basically took turns DMing every week. And we would just switch it off, and that worked pretty well because we would always start back in the tavern, and you would sit down and you would suggest some things, and the players were like, that sounds fun, and then you would just explore it. But really, like, what that meant is I have a really fun idea about a bunch of goblins, but that's about as far as you plan. Like, you plan a fight, and then you let the players eventually find it. Like, and so
Yep.
yeah, the setting can change, the world can change, but it's just this is what I'm gonna set up, and it'll be fun. Lars did a thing. He's like, I'm so glad you guys finally went into this dungeon, because we've all been chomping at the bit trying to get into combat for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And he's like, this is the third dungeon I've designed that you guys finally went into it. And we were like, there were 2 other dungeons we missed? Like, what? And so it boggles my mind a little bit that, like, as the players, we just didn't even realize it was an option. Twice. And it's like, I don't know how to I have no advice. I have no advice for you, Lars, because I'm not sure how we got to this point. And so it just made me start thinking about everything today. So I hope my ramblings and rantings are helpful to somebody. But I might also just be too tired to function and be rambling.
Well, I love when we talk about it, because I do think that us talking about, critiquing what we've done so far and talking about different play styles and stuff, that does help me become a better GM. And since I've been the GM for our group the most, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. Like, in hindsight, this is only viable because it's hindsight, right?
Yeah.
With that encounter, what I might have done differently, knowing what I know now, is as the bird went into the attic where you had thought, hey, this is where Chimney Man will be.
Big boss fight.
Instead of it being this is where Chimney Man will be, it should have been this is the inciting incident, right? So as soon as the bird touches the attic, something attacks the bird, or something like horrifies the bird. Burning sees the Chimney Man's face through his bird's eyes or something. The door locks. Like, smoke starts bellowing out of the chimney, and then we're like, oh shit, what do we do, right? Not a fight. Initiative doesn't start. That's just the inciting incident, right?
Yeah.
And that could have been your response to, oh, they just walked into my boss room. Well, you know what? Maybe that's not where the boss is now.
Yeah.
And that is very much just, learning how to fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of mentality of, like, what can I do to make this a good story is hard. It's hard to learn.
Yeah, and it takes practice, and it takes constructive criticism and honest reflection about how things went.
Go ahead.
I really enjoyed your encounter last Saturday.
Good.
Just so everybody knows, my character went down. I got knocked down pretty fast, pretty hard, and
some damage.
It was fantastic. And I think part of it is because I've been playing more Arkham Horror sort of stuff, so I'm like significantly more comfortable with a character, even one that I'm really invested in. Suffering a great deal.
Sure.
And because that's part of Arkham Horror. But on the other hand, I do think that that encounter really did do what you wanted it to do, which was to show everybody, like, oh, this looked like it was just going to be us fighting a bunch of wimpy goblins, and it was just going to be a goofy fight, and then suddenly the stakes got raised.
Yeah.
And I really, really liked that. I love it when things are suddenly, whenever you're getting more than you signed up for. I love that.
That's something interesting too about, like, your DM style and my DM style are different in the aspect of I like my players to not be prepared for what they're stepping into.
Yeah.
And like a lot of your is that the investigation for the chimney man was interesting. I kind of like that, even though my character at the time was I wanted him to be flighty and just I want destiny to guide where I go. So for me,
basically not participating. You basically had him not participate in the investigation and had him just show up where he needed to be afterwards.
Which
I was
I think
fine with.
I think we're getting better at that as we get along with that, because
Yeah.
I think my favorite part of that was when we were talking to one of the Dragonborns, and I'm pulling a card out. I just fortune guide me, and you made me walk to a well, and that was a really good subtle push, right?
Yeah.
It's just you don't give me any information about what it means, where it's from. It's just this draws your attention. And it's huh. But that was my role, right? My role was not what is this well? It's just what is important in this room, and you point at it, and it's just
yep.
That's cool. I like that. That feels great for that character. And even though it's not it's not. That's what I wanted, right? That was my favorite moment of that. I was just I feel
good. I'm glad.
That felt very much like the weird moments in cop dramas when they just notice something out of the corner of their eye, or the audience is given information that maybe the
character's not.
And that to me is more interesting than, okay, we know we're gonna go I'm just gonna use your example of the dragons, the first dragons we did.
Yeah.
Where it's just okay, let's go look at the dragons. Let's all sit down and read books and just make rolls to try to figure out what's going to happen, right? It's just I'd rather just go and then have to spend time rolling to deal with those consequences than trying to prevent them to begin with. And
whereas I had very specific mechanical ideas in mind for that fight, and I was trying to give you guys time to prepare for it.
Right.
Which still did not work out great, but
Yeah, and that's I said, that's just a different style, right? I kind of gave you guys the same opportunity with Father Foil's library. It's you guys can't come here and just ask questions. That is a legitimate thing that I want you guys to have access to. But at the same time, I'm going to subvert some of those. I'm never going to give you a direct answer that is going to be 100% correct, because it's just, that's not a game.
Yeah.
So.
And I try to be really subtle about it, but I'm kind of the same way. If I'm going to give information about a thing, the information I try to make it so that it's going to be helpful, but there's I always try to plan for something that's going to either legit pull the rug out from under you guys, if I want the fight to be really difficult, or something that's going to make the fight go slightly sideways, so that, because as much as I want you guys to be prepared for your fights, I also don't want you to be fully prepared for your fights.
Right.
Which is why I have never come up with a list of, you guys need to prepare these items. I try to leave it to you guys. That totally backfired with the dragon fight, because I was okay, so you're here now. If you didn't bring snowshoes, and you guys are wait, snowshoes are an item, and I was damn it, we don't know enough about Pathfinder. Nobody has all of the items prepared. Right. Of course, it makes total sense that you guys weren't oh, we're going to go to a snowy location, we'd better pack snowshoes. That is a thing where I legit was oh no, I failed there. I should have been okay, so you're going to go to someplace snowy. It's going to be difficult terrain. These are items that can mitigate that. If you want to spend time preparing them, then I will let you do so.
And I do think that also has something to do with not just environmental storytelling, but what's the term for it? In situ storytelling.
Yeah.
Right. And so if instead of us preparing in the guild, right? We marched there for a week, and then we noticed that it's starting to get cold and starting to get snowy, and we reached a base camp. And it's hey, you guys shouldn't go up there without the proper equipment. Well, what's the proper equipment? What do we need, right? You're learning the you're learning the important
the
information
environment as you go.
on the and like that's where like NPCs are really important, and I try to tell Lars this all the time, because his NPCs are either purposefully crass, like they just are assholes to the party,
Yep.
or kind of mildly to wildly incompetent, and so they're just like, it's like this person is actually hampering our progress. Like, what are we supposed to do with this information? So and I think part of that is very much like Lars loves his like RPG video games, and like is a very avid Diablo 3 and 4 player, and like that's what the NPCs are in those games, right? Like they're they're in your way. They're comic relief, and they're like, I'm gonna do this. Like, here's the quest we need to do. I'm gonna bang on this wall for 30 minutes while you kill monsters. And it's like, I wish you would help us fight the monsters. Like, what are you doing? So, I get where Lars is coming from with that. But once again, it's not a video game. Like, it should be a good, fun narrative, I think.
Yeah.
So
I'll admit I've gotten really lazy with my use of NPCs in the game that I'm currently running, and I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. That would have been a great use of them.
like I really liked the demon incursion we did. Like, it was a huge map. It was like a truncated map, and so we had to navigate it. That was part of the fight, and that was fun for me because that's very mechanical. But like the thing that I didn't enjoy with that fight was, hey, we need to save all these people, which my character is essentially neutral good, so he's like, yeah, we need to save these people. That sounds right. But none of them were helpful. It was just, they were essentially just MacGuffin things we had to collect.
Yeah,
So
the
to me,
100%.
it would have been a lot more interesting to, like, when we get in there, someone's just like, hey, help! Or like, look out! Like, and then someone is giving us feedback about what's going on or what to expect. And then as we help them, it's like, hey, you're awake, carry this guy out while I cover you, right? And that just adds more dynamic fights, because unfortunately with that one, the mechanical side was on us, but the enemies didn't have to deal with it because they could fly everywhere, right? So I think that could have been a lot more of an interesting fight if we were, instead of attacking the pillars, like where we were trying to destroy the gates. An NPC could have been doing that, which mine kind of was, because I wasn't really using the tree man. So they're doing that, which is giving us a timer, and then we are creating a path to freedom for the people we're saving, right? And just defending that from like tiny minions, and then maybe one or two of the what were they called? The
Erinys?
Yeah.
Should
have been commanding them, like, no, send people over there, do this, do that. And then that, I think, once again, totally in hindsight, I enjoyed that encounter. That was a lot of fun.
That was that fight.
But that fight had
I
frustrating
have a lot of
points.
mixed feelings about that fight as well. I think that for what I wanted to do, I made the map too big, actually, because it was supposed to be a much more contained fight. And you guys didn't you shouldn't have necessarily had to deal with the MacGuffin, our catatonic NPCs who you were there to rescue at the same time while you were fighting. It just kind of worked out that way, and once again I was like, well, this is kind of what I've set up, and this is how they're choosing to interact with it. And once you guys had once you guys had been you guys kind of set a little bit of a time crunch, and then I leaned into it, and I may have leaned in too hard.
Okay.
After that, but like it was, I don't know. There's a lot that I would do differently, but I didn't want to let you guys wake up and interact with the catatonic NPCs. Because they were set up for the next leg of the fight, which was the entering the dreamscape, the mindscape, and dealing with stuff there.
See, and that is interesting. Like that. Once again, like that part felt a little weird to me. Like getting to it. Because we didn't really have a good guide for that.
Yeah.
And so like I think that was a good thing to do. But if we had been like had one or two NPCs that we really cared about, or maybe someone from the guild, that we had to save, I think that could have also changed the dynamic of like the pressure to do that.
Yeah.
Someone
like-
should have made a tiefling.
What's that?
Said some player should have made a tiefling character so they could have got kidnapped.
That's good, right? Like that's the thing. And like the real downside to this is something that I have the benefit of is that I play the same campaigns multiple times. So like the first time I did the fight, not this fight, the next one, the next thing I'm gonna have you guys do, the Trial of Blood. Like it was awful. It was awful, and people were like, that sucked, and I was like, huh. And so I rethought it and I retried it, and this is actually going to be the third or fourth iteration of it. And like I have the benefit of doing that because I DM a lot and I DM for a lot of people. And so it is, like I said, always in hindsight, it's easier. We can look at what you did and then be like, oh, it would have been cool if we'd done it this way. So unless you want to run that again differently, like we did with Corvus's thing, right? Corvus tried something.
Yep.
It was interesting enough that we're like, let's fucking do it again, and it was a lot of fun. Like both times was fun, but like I enjoy that. Like I like replaying things when you change things. I like playing games with different characters, right? So and that's one of the reasons that I always get not frustrated, but just like when I play games with my friends and they play one kit over and over and over again, and then they're like, I'm bored with this game. It's like, that's because you don't try different things. Like like it's fine if you don't want to play anymore, that's fine, but like don't play Ash every time. Like let me play Ash this time and you play something else and we'll play the game again. So I rolled a 5, which is the Space Dwarf Warrior with a plasma axe. Totally not worth 40k. There are only 5. Well, now there's only 4 left, so we might actually get through this today. I think I'm going to do something a little different, especially if you're not going to hang around for too long. I think I'm just going to draw them all in the same layer. I'm just going to put them all right here. So I'm going to draw this Space Dwarf down here in the corner.
Sure.
Because
I'm just going to make my orc barbarian that I did just for the hell of it green, and then I'm probably done.
Sure. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff, and I'm kind of okay with that kind of thing. And so it would be kind of interesting if we run into the Chimney Man again somewhere, in a different campaign or with different players.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with, dealing with the spider drug dealers. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. I like revisiting like same concepts, same scenes, but from different perspective.
Yeah, I've got nobody at our table is going to know this, but I do have a couple of things that they're more ideas than specific encounters, but there are a couple of places where we'll be visiting that is a revisit from stuff that I've done before. And like I'm not averse to rebuilding, to running the same encounter over and over again. I usually have enough ideas for new stuff that I want to try that I haven't gotten around to running
That is something that like,
again yet.
I'll constantly have like a book of little notes or like, ooh, this would be a funny trap, or like this is a funny character that would be fun to put somewhere, but then I tend to keep rehashing the same design, the same dungeon, because it's just like I'd rather refine something than constantly try something new. If I feel like it didn't work well the first time,
Yeah.
Like, yeah, how would you guys do this if you had different characters? Let's get that. So, that's the both the blessing and the curse of the DM. It's just like, I have too many ideas. that I'm never gonna get around to.
Shocker.
One of the most frustrating things with puzzles is having to guess how the GM wants you to say things. Yeah. That's that's actually specifically why I either try to make a puzzle that's like completely open-ended, and then when somebody comes up with a cool idea, I'd be like, yeah, that's how you do it. Or more likely, I provide multiple avenues for people to be able to solve them.
Were you around when I did the Plants vs Zombies thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I played in it, but I watched it.
Okay, I think you might have watched it. God, I ran that 2 or 3 times, and they did it differently every single time. And the third time, I actually changed it because, like, it's a big, long runway of shit throwing at people. And someone was like, "Can I, like?" It took so long to get to this point. The first time, I cut out the middle. I was just like, "Okay, I'm truncating it." Oh, poor kid. Oh, sad baby. I truncated it the first time, and then the second time I gave them checkpoints. So like,
Oh, little man, what happened? What happened? You have a bad dream? You had a poop?
I also think, going back to Chinny Man stuff, I do briefly remember being slightly annoyed with other players for being cagey about the information. I was like, I need the information. I wasn't here for it. Please tell me. Stop being cagey.
Yeah.
This is not how it works.
I felt that way about all of the NPCs in Rook's Tower of Ashfont campaign.
yeah, no,
Like,
I took
NPCs being
that.
cagey, that's fine, but it's like, Jump Rope,
players,
please tell me
yeah.
the information.
We're
No,
on
please
a
tell me
team.
this information.
Yeah, we're on a team. Could you please act like it for just 5 minutes? Just give me 5 fucking minutes.
My intent with that, and I did definitely, I think everybody I talked to like hated Noir because he was so vague. And in my mind, like, I wanted it to be that way because I wanted people to, 1, not trust him, and 2, possibly attack him. But it was too much. It was just too much. And I realized that like towards the end of the campaign. And so I started like trying to befriend people with him. And it was kind of funny because it kind of worked, because then Kevin the Necromancer was like, I could just let this guy think I'm his friend and then stab him in the back. I'm like, that's legitimate. Do that. But it very much was like, if the NPCs are too cagey and too vague, the players disconnect from them. And they're just like, that guy's a piece of shit.
Yep. I didn't actually mind Noir that much for the little bit that I was there. It was the rest of the party that was problematic. I still find it absolutely shocking that my character, who is neutral good, decided that his best chance for survival and the best person for him to align himself with was Jonas's chaotic evil Knoll.
Yeah.
Because they were, 1, fairly gentle with the party, and 2, actually shared information, and 3, had some idea of what was going on and were competent enough to deal with it. I never got that impression from any of the other characters.
Yeah.
Inferno's character had some weird secrets, and unfortunately was very introspective, which I think I didn't let Inferno expand upon enough to the audience. And then Burning's character was very, I think cagey is a good word, just like scared, didn't want to trust anybody except maybe the party. And then Doughboy's character was completely introspective, like just only really cared about themselves. And so it created this dichotomy of everybody just not participating, which my intent for that entire campaign was to force people to work together. And because I was afraid that this would happen in a game where not everybody knows each other. And it just didn't quite work, which is kind of why I stopped doing it. So I'm like, it's just, this experiment was fun, but it's not going where I wanted
It
to.
failed.
It failed, yeah. Because like I ran the same thing with Kevin, Lars, and Jump Rope, and it worked really well. It worked really well with them because they inherently wanted to help each other and like be there for each other. And so like halfway through their campaign, I basically just stopped caring about the chain mechanic. I mean, like I still kept it in mind, but like they were moving so fluidly together that it only came up in like rare instances of Lars's goblin just like, I'm gonna run. It's like, good luck, Kevin. You have to deal with this. Like, how are you gonna help? And they did. They worked really well together. So the mechanic still works, but it didn't work in the way that I thought it would. Like, it was supposed to be a deterrent, and instead it just became a fun mechanic for functional teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just remember when your investigator came in, was asking us questions, and everyone immediately got cagey. I was like, please stop.
Yeah.
I was like, and like I brought up the book, which I did not have,
Yeah.
because I did not write it down in my inventory, so I clearly did not have it, and I wasn't there for the mission. And it's like, you have, I'm like, nope.
70% of that NPC's purpose being in that campaign was to get you guys to actually share all of the evidence that you'd had so far.
And
Because
everyone immediately clammed up at me. I was like, come on.
We didn't trust him. Hi, I know more than you guys do, but you're gonna tell me stuff. It's like, who the fuck are you? Get away from me. Like,
That's not what I got.
He was a private investigator, and he was looking for information about the Chimney Man stuff, and he'd heard Corvus's character had been looking into it. That's why he was there.
And then we had to protect him. Like, our job became to keep him alive during the fight because he was kind of useless.
Yeah, well, it's because he was leveled down significantly.
Don't
from
do
you guys.
that.
Julie believes that NPCs should be lower leveled than the players.
I tend
maybe
to.
that's just me then.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm of the mind that. Like,
Also, first off, I was big fans with him because he brought me back, unlike everyone else did. Just saying. Y'all were letting me die.
I'm a champion. I can't revive people.
And to be fair, Corvus, everybody else had a lot of shit on their plate. So he was, you know, like we've discussed, the Chimney Man fight got started faster than it was supposed to, and it was harder than it was supposed to because what was supposed to be 3 different encounters all kind of got mashed together into one. And yeah, that's mostly my bad. Partially partially Burning's bad, but mostly my bad. But like, you were never supposed to have to protect the investigator. He was there to facilitate communication, to be a GM mouthpiece if you guys asked questions that needed an answer, and he was there to shore up any holes you guys might have in perception or lore checks in the investigation itself.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be his purpose. He was never built to participate in the fight.
That what you just said, I think, is really smart. Like being able to facilitate lore checks and stuff that the party can't do. Like that's a great use for support NPCs.
Yeah.
But the thing with it, and this is not a critique at you, this is critique at, well, it's a critique at Lars. And it's something I learned from playing with Lars, is that if you are adding that person into the game, don't require the roles, ever. Like, if it's something that, like, oh, if the players can't figure this out, he'll say it. Just have them bring that information up to stir the players into asking better questions, you know?
Right.
And so, like, what you were saying is, like, he shows up and he's like, oh, you've got this book. And Corvus is like, I don't fucking have that book. He should have had the book. Or a copy of it. Or something like, hey, there was this book that someone was talking about that I got information that the guild has. Like, and here it is. This is the interesting page, right? Like, directing people to that information can be super helpful, and I feel like is not utilized well. I think Matt Mercer does it really well. I haven't not watched enough of, like, Coville and Mulligan to really see how they do it. But, like,
Mulligan
We'll
doesn't
say-
do a lot of environmental storytelling or yeah, pretty much everything he gives the player comes through their checks. He actually manages it.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably specifically because he knows everybody's character sheet and plans to give them the information based on what they have, based on their skills instead of like what I do, which is insert the information into the world and then look at character sheets, and then if skills that are likely to give that information aren't present, then build an NPC to be the workaround. So like I also do think you've got had a little bit of a misunderstanding, and this probably comes down to my not doing character voices most of the time. It was me above table as the GM saying, okay, somebody here has the book that I gave you guys, and this would be the point where you share it with the group. Was basically what that part of the conversation was going to be.
And see,
because he did not know about the book. He was literally just there to talk to Corvus's character about Chimney Man, and then everybody else who had any information about Chimney Man were invited above table to kind of participate in this conversation.
Gotcha.
The issue, though, was I did not participate in the haunted house quest with the attic wizards because I was gone.
Yep.
And so, I had no idea about this book. I think Drew may have mentioned it once, and I'm really bad about forgetting things. But it's like... and I was like, I don't have this book.
Yeah. I also, Corvus, I don't think everybody at the table like immediately got cagey. I think that most of our table is wallflowers. Nobody wants to be the first person to speak up because everybody's afraid of talking over anybody else.
I think that is part of it. I think the other part
I
of it
just
is
remember, like
I didn't remember anything.
jump ropes cleric and like Inagi immediately clamming up and getting cagey about information. It's like,
Yeah, that is just
That I think
that
is also part of like that's kind of Burning's MO.
Yeah.
Just like I mistrust anybody in authority. Period. And so it's like, well, we
But it is a
probably shouldn't
private
bring an
investigator.
authority
He's-
figure in here then.
I would argue a private investigator is not an authority figure. They're just a mercenary cop. And not even a real cop.
Yeah, but if you're a drug dealer and someone walks up and says, "Hi, I'm a PI," are they gonna be like, "Oh, that's cool. You're not a cop. I'll tell you whatever." I would say no. I would say they would still mistrust you.
My only pushback is like, why in the world did anyone have any reason to mistrust a little rat investigator?
Well, that's just like I'm saying. That's just Burning. Burning does that with every character they've played. I think they just Burning inherently doesn't trust the law.
Yep.
But yeah, that was like my biggest like annoyance. It's like I don't have the information, so I can't interact with this story that I clearly have started by pulling this paper off the wall.
Mm-hmm. and
I can't do anything with it.
And I think the investigator was a good start there, and I think all the pieces are there. Like we just kind of didn't implement it right.
Yeah.
And you saying, "Hey, someone has this book," you could have foregoed by having the investigator actually bring it up, right? Like,
Yeah.
why was the
I
investigator
did-
here to begin with? Oh, kid, you are just so wiggly right now. What's going on? You just want to be upside down? Ah!
Well, the investigator did say why he was there. He was investigating the kids.
Right. Like I said, I think all the pieces were there. I think we just kind of flubbed it up. As a
Yep.
group. As a group, we flubbed it up.
Yeah.
Because the investigator, I think, is the smart play. Oh God, kid, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
That is one that I would like to. Because as I've looked more at the haunts and traps and things, it's kind of. I would like to rewrite and kind of rerun that encounter, because I think it would be really cool to I think basically what I would do. You guys were interested in the burned out old manor house, which was a location we never quite got to. I think it would be cool to take out a lot of the mid dungeons that we did, like a lot of the mid encounters, and then just like have people build instead of like combat related characters, do a full on investigation stuff, and then have still like have some of the NPC interactions, but then like send the your group to the manor house while the investigator goes somewhere else to look for other stuff, and then have you guys deal with a legit haunted house.
Yeah, that could have been fun. I think that actually what you just said is a really smart thing too. Of like, maybe especially if the players are more.
If they want to be more independent about it.
No, I just mean like investigations are kind of hard to write. Period.
Yeah.
And so instead of making the players just wander around asking random NPCs shit, send the NPC to do that, and then give the players something like, you guys should go investigate this one building that will be an encounter. That could be like start with talking or whatever and become an encounter, and then let a lot of the talking be done by the NPCs, because it's less important. Specifically, if there is information that the party can only get if they roll high enough for, just like I said, forgo the rolls. Let the NPC do that, and have the players do something that is more aligned to their kit. So, like, if you're playing a murder mystery game, it makes total sense to like intrigue the players to ask questions, right? Like that's the game. The game is to ask the right questions. But if the game you're playing is really more RP and combat related, then it doesn't make sense to all of a sudden force the characters to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting way of.
I think another way
is basically saying, hey, I'm not going to make you make these rolls, but you need to succeed in this encounter, this event first, and then I will reward you with the busy work, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever there is information that you guys need, I always try to make sure that you can get it with, like, no matter what. Like, I usually won't give it to somebody unless they make a roll, but the needed information is always going to be included in a roll, unless you roll a natural one. In which case, somebody else at the table is inevitably going to make a different roll, and if the natural one precludes the information, I'm going to fit the needed information in somewhere else. I've never had a problem getting you guys all of the information you needed. Sometimes I have a hard time getting you guys to listen to the information you need, but
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I do think there's this is something I've talked to Lars and Kevin about as well, of just like the flowery nature of storytelling versus the importance of like visual information. And we've talked about like the chair and the door issues, right?
Yeah.
But like it really is, how do you disseminate information without just being by the way, you need to know this is weak to fire, right?
Yep.
Because that's not fun. But it's also not fun to spend 30 minutes discussing the mating habits of flame salamanders to realize, oh, yeah, they're immune to fire.
Oh, what happened?
Yep.
Are your little teeth is coming in? Is that what's going on, kid?
Oh no. No wonder he can't sleep.
I don't know. He was just chewing on a regular chew toy, and he's just like, oh, I'm God. So I wonder if his top teeth are coming in. Oh, poor baby. Oh, poor baby.
Yeah, I said boy.
Time to put it in the freezer.
I think
Buy him a bag of frozen blueberries.
one way I think I would do it about like disseminating information would be basic need to know information, like I don't know, salamanders being immune to fire. NPC will gladly tell you that, but like if you want more, you need to roll for more. basic information can be a given, but like if you want like what type of behavior do they have, and if you're trying to set up a trap for them, like, and you try to roll for like nature to like what are their hunting habits like, then you can roll for it. But like if you're like asking for basic need like information that a adventurer probably would know, NPC should just give it to you.
Yeah, yeah. Like the common knowledge that trolls can't regenerate if you hit them with fire or acid.
Yep. But then, like, if you are like going up a specific troll, then maybe roll like, because not all of them have the same immunities,
Yep.
or not immunities, but weaknesses. Like cavern trolls are weak to sonic.
Yeah, so this is I like this train of thought. Because like
It's not perfect, I know.
no, yeah, but the whole in second edition Pathfinder, the knowledge rolls and like known weaknesses and stuff are built into kits, right?
Yep.
So like
Yep.
the thaumaturge and the investigator basically get to know information like that, but that to me makes it seem like that should be information that you can't just ask about, right?
Yeah.
Which feels
Mechanically,
weird.
yes, that is the rule.
Yeah.
So
that
if
feels
you-
super weird that you're like, oh, no one's ever written a book about a troll. Like, is every player supposed to be experiencing this world for the first time, and then those knowledge rolls are them thinking about books, right?
Yeah, because you mentioned thaumaturge. So like when they recall knowledge for their main ability, like for exploit vulnerability, you only like if you get success. They specifically said the GM is supposed to be able to give you one weakness and one resistance, if any. And it's like so, and that's unique to thaumaturge or investigators.
Investigator has it too. But that seems really weird to me because then it completely removes the let's go to a library and read about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like that's something literally anybody could do. And I don't know. I don't necessarily like the thing about the investigator and the thaumaturge only really is helpful if you're fighting things that you're not prepared for, which is the complete opposite of what those characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really weird. It's like it's very meta knowledge versus character knowledge, and that bothers me. It bothers me a little bit. like
I think it's just comes down to Pathfinder, like, because like when they say like you get a critical, if you get a critical success, you get more information. It's like it's such a vague term that I feel like it just boils down to GM to GM, like what is.
And each of the creatures has like a base knowledge check, anyways.
Yeah.
And so like when I used to play first edition Pathfinder, what I would do is I'd be like, oh, you guys are being attacked by this thing, and I would describe it physically. I wouldn't say the name of it. And then if someone rolled a check for it and they succeeded, I would be like, cool. I'd just hand them the book. They'd be like, this is what you know about them, right? Like, now you have to disseminate that to the party, right? And so it's up to them to like read the book and decipher what they want to spread to the party. Well, you done? You done, kid? There you go.
I will say, like, with the exception of thaumaturge, it almost doesn't matter for a lot of people if you know what the creature is or not.
Yeah.
Because the only things that really matter is if you're like a wizard or whatever who is maybe accidentally heal a fire creature with a fire spell. But if the creature is obviously on fire, a common sense should dictate I probably should be using fire on it.
I'll be back.
Uh-oh.
And like, so yeah, I get a little annoyed when people like say like, oh, recall knowledge is one of the most important skills for like Pathfinder. It's like, it is only if you're able to capitalize on the weakness,
Yeah.
in which a lot of times people are not able to, unless you're a thaumaturge.
It's like,
Yeah.
and so
You can-
with that, like the same thing with if you're not prepared to fight like a werewolf or a ghost, you walking into combat and going, I roll a knowledge, whatever. Cool. Its weakness is cold iron. It's like, where the fuck are we gonna get cold iron from? Like, you can't
Yep.
capitalize on it, right? Or when something is immune to slashing damage, it's like, yeah, we all only have slashing weapons. So like it being an at speed knowledge call is almost never that helpful. Like it has to
Yep.
be pre-planned stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'll be right back. 1 second.
Yeah.
That's
'Cause, like-
something that I feel like I've kind of let down the group with on the Monster of the Week sort of episodic thing that we've been doing thus far. I really should have been giving you guys more, like, giving you guys given that you guys are in a guild and being sent to fight monsters, I really should have been, like, giving the party more access to the creature information. Not quite to the point of being like, oh, you guys can, like, you're in a guild that fights monsters, you have the information, just go and, like, if you have the name of the creature, just you're free to go and look up the entry in
how
the
to kill menu.
yeah. Go look up the entry in the monster manual. You get all this information. But like maybe that would have been okay, especially since there have been fights where I've been like, you don't know exactly what this thing is.
And I think, like, with the dungeons, the going underground, the gibbering mouther, like,
Mhm.
those would make sense. Like, those don't seem like common enough enemies that the guild would have faced. But, like,
Yeah.
trolls, dire wolves, anything like that, I feel like should be in, like, yeah, we always had to fight like 3 trolls at least a year.
Yeah.
Take some acid files with you, you'll be fine.
Yeah. There's dire wolves everywhere. The Fae are just little shits that like to mess with everybody.
Mhm. But yeah, I think I know they don't really use CR anymore, but like creatures with a certain CR, like if they're like, I don't know, like 6 and below, probably should have been common knowledge. Anything like above, with a few exceptions, probably a little bit harder, but probably information still be easier to find.
Yeah.
Animate dreams, probably super esoteric, probably would need to see some sort of occultist if we wanted information on that.
Yeah. You know, all the monsters do have rarities.
This is true.
It kind of does make sense that any creature with the common tag on it would, like, people would just have that information.
Yeah.
Or have a lot of that information.
At the very least, a guild of adventurers would.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking at it right now.
Hello, Red.
Hey, how's it going? Rook's taking care of the kid. We were just talking about GMing stuff mostly. But
Yep.
Alright,
I am no
gonna...
artist.
Yeah. Fellow artist, yeah.
Druid is an artist, not me.
Yeah. Corvus is our lore librarian. He's familiar with a lot more TTRPGs, and
I
reads
feel like
a lot
that's a
more
bit of a
than we do.
lie. I just have read stuff.
That's enough to make you familiar with it.
I've not played a lot of tabletop RPGs. Now think about it, I think I probably should have done my Hydra quest a little bit differently. I wanted y'all to sink in some quicksand. Maybe I shouldn't have made all those visible for you all.
So it does look like the recall knowledge checks do take into account rarity of creatures in Pathfinder 2.
Yeah. You've been working on a comic about fantasy setting mixed with the Great War type era. Any tip? Not for
Fantasy
me.
setting mixed with the Great War type. World War One, but fantasy.
Red, hello, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
Rook might be a bit better to answer that since
Yeah.
Rook has made comics.
Yeah, hold on a second. Sorry, the kid is just being...
Full of beans.
Unconsolable.
I put him down on the floor, and he immediately turned around and smacked his face into the wall. So I was like, great.
Oh no.
So I cannot put him down. Fellow artists, I've been making a comic about fantasy setting mixed with Great War type era. Any tips? I mean, are you... I'm trying to think about the best way to say this. A comic's only as good as its writing. Which I know sounds bad, but like the art is tertiary. So that's the best thing I can do. Make sure your story is really good. Have people proofread it, take critique with it, and then draw a comic about it. Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I think of for comics. Because like when I drew comics back in the day, like I just wanted to draw. Like I didn't really want to write a comic. I just wanted to draw, which is fine. But drawing lots of panels is not a good comic make.
Yeah.
So it helps really much to have like look at books that tell you how to like format comic writing, how to design panel layouts, things like that. Because having an idea for a setting is great. Write a story about it. See if you like it. Turn it into a comic.
If you're like curious about incorporating magic into World War One era,
No.
I would be considering because there were a lot of new inventions around World War One, right? And it was the newness of our weapons of war, aka tanks and machine guns, and better airplanes, etc., etc. Like it's that sort of stuff that like really made the Great War so absolutely bloody and horrible, because we had all of these new tools and we're having to use them in old style combat. So trench warfare was a really terrible, horrible thing that apparently became necessary because of tanks. Yeah, so like if it's about how to wrap fantasy up into it, like I personally would go about it with like it's the beginning of Magitech, right? Like figuring out ways that or showing, because it's most of that you'll have to show it in the art. But
I would almost. I just want to interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Even beyond that, like I think the first thing is any tips. Any tips about what? We need more clarification on what.
Yeah.
Oh my god, kid, calm down. I'm right here. I'm holding you. What's up? The second part about that is going to be not only what Druid is saying about like how do you make Magitech, but like how has magic influenced the world? Because that's going to completely change.
Yeah.
Completely like we're still in the war apparently. So did magic come about after the war? Is magic new? Is magic old? Like, yeah. What kind of tips are you looking for? Because we can go down a rabbit hole of all of these different things.
Yeah, was the world like completely normal until suddenly some of no, that's World War II. I was gonna say the Nazi Party's weird occult research finally paid off or something.
Yeah, like
No.
a good example of something similar to this is Hellboy, right?
Yeah,
Hellboy,
yeah.
essentially, magic is introduced during World War II,
Yep.
right? Nazis start making magic. Hellboy is invoked into the world. That's where the comic starts, right?
Yep.
So
And then the world slowly starts to end.
yeah. So you have your setting, which is World War One. Great. So we're saying that the war has happened. Everything in history has happened the same way up to that point, except there are vampires? Question mark. Like that's the question you have to ask to reflect your magic system. When did the magic come into play? Why is it only showing up now? What does it actually do? Right. Another example I think of World War One is Full Metal Alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
Like essentially it's a different world because World War One didn't happen because alchemy exists. Instead, an alchemical war happened, right? Like, and yeah, it completely changes the history of it.
Yep.
So start with that. What is the ramifications of magic existing in your world?
And how long has it been like commonly used?
So a comic is my own fictional countries and continents, so no real world stuff. But you said you were going to do it in.
No, he said it in a great war type era.
Well, okay, so that's we were talking about this earlier, like visual versus, like when you're descripting things. By
Yeah.
Great War, you just mean a big war, because like Lord of the Rings, done, right? Like that's your setting. But if you're saying you want it to be in like the aesthetics of a great war, why isn't it just fantasy? That's my question. Because if it's a mix of great war and fantasy, like all fantasies usually have great wars in them. Does that make sense? Can you answer that question for me?
Mariah asks, is magic created in Hellboy or did they incorporate it into devices? I've only seen the first movie. I think there are around 4.
Did magic create or did they? Hellboy was summoned by Hitler from the Dark Plane.
I think that in Hellboy, because it's Hellboy is DC, right?
Hellboy's Dark Horse, so.
Hellboy's Dark Horse. Okay, so I think that magic always existed in that world, but it was not common. And then Hellboy happens specifically when the Nazis are doing weird occult research and actually figure some shit out.
So the inference with Hellboy is that magic has always existed. Humanity has progressed the same up to World War One, and then Hellboy shows up, and then everything kind of keeps going the same, but all the occult magic stuff is happening in the background until the early 2000s, I think, when the apocalypse happens, right? So, yeah. So, like, it's still our world. It's still our world, but magic is happening in the background. And that's another thing. If you want to go through World War One, your setting is World War One or World War Two, it doesn't matter. And you want to write a fantasy book, the world can continue. Like, magic has always existed. It's just people don't see it. People are using magic during the fight, and people are just like, oh, that tank blew up a building. But no, it was a wizard with a fireball, right? Like,
Right.
That's one way to incorporate magic into your world. Is just keep our world the same, but it has magic. It's World War One, but with vampires, right? Like, nothing changed. There are vampires.
Yeah. Matt Red says magic is an old thing until the tanks and zeppelins and cannons were invented. No one used magic except natives. Yeah, okay, so magic was always a thing, then I guess then your world has to have had some sort of industrial revolution.
Yep.
and then after that, magic was generally never used because technology was probably seen as more reliable.
Okay,
Which makes sense. There's a lot of kind of lore about magic being inherently finicky and unreliable. I like that.
Red says after the tanks and cannons were invented, magic was never used anymore from the industrial nations. Yeah, so that's an example of that's a good point to look at your world, right? Like magic has always existed, and now the story you're going to tell is the rediscovery of magic, right? So that's your narrative drive. Is this great war is happening, people are rediscovering magic, and the story is what would that look like, right?
Yeah. If I were to go about it, I would do it from a colonial sort of perspective, because there's the tech. It will kind of boil down to technology versus magic in the end, probably. You don't have to go that route, obviously, but that's kind of what you've told us of your setting so far implies the story is going to be incorporating. So in my mind, it kind of immediately feels sort of cowboys versus Indians, or Zulus versus the British Navy, or the British versus India.
I think another thing to look at, and this is more about writing than anything else, is and what Druid's talking about is basically defining your not your author, what's the word, your protagonist, right? Like, why do they have a stake in this? Are they learning magic? Are they dealing with the fact that the people they're fighting are learning magic? Like, you need to define that. Like, what's your comic about? Right? Is it about that industrialization is bad? Is it about magic needing to be part of the world? That's why I'm saying, like, you can write a comic that, like, I have this cool idea for a comic that looks really pretty, and it's gonna look like Samurai Champloo, but with more futuristic stuff. It's like, cool, but what's it about?
Yeah. So basically what you've got to do is you've got to take all of your ideas, probably write them down, and then figure out your order of operations. You need to get all of your ducks in a row. Like, figure out who your protagonist is, or if there are multiple protagonists, figure out your antagonists, figure out what sides they're on, if this is about the war, or if it's not about the war, figure out how the war is affecting the rest of the story, and figure out where your story goes. Then write your story, and then the hardest part with comics is boiling down your story to its most the smallest version of itself, and then figuring out how you're going to take a lot of your writing ideas and translate that into the comic itself, in like how you're going to be using pictures to show a lot of your story.
Okay, so now you've said that magic has been outlawed. So that means that everybody knows magic exists, and it's not a rediscovery of magic, but you have a rebellion story.
Yeah.
So so this is the importance of, like, what story are you trying to tell? Because you can have a world, right? Like, this is the cool thing about D&D. You can make a world where we can write all this stuff down, right? There's a great war happening. Magic has been outlawed for a while. People are creating technology, but we still don't know, like, what's the main character's goal? Where are they on? What side are they on? What's actually happening? You have a great setting, but you don't have a story yet.
Yep. So absolutely, like,
about?
you should be writing down all of the, like, stuff that you have, but then you need to figure out what's most important, and you need to actually write your story.
A really fun little kid. I think his teeth are coming in. I think that's why he's cranky. This goes back to the bar fight. The bar fight story. Oh, poor baby. Poor baby. Why do so many stories start with a bar fight? And it's because you can learn a lot about both the character and the world in that situation. Right? So Malcolm Reynolds goes to a bar on Liberation Day and punches a bunch of red coat guys in the face. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what? And we learn a whole bunch about him just from that small incident, right? An inciting incident. Oh, kid.
And I make a lot of little stories of creatures trying to survive or fight in the war. Interesting. So it's not going to be
So you're writing an
one
anthology.
long story, but it's a collection of vignettes.
Yeah. I
That's
think Malcolm
cool.
Reynolds in Firefly was a brown coat. And like the inference there is that they lost their revolution or their civil war, and then the galaxy gets taken over by the I can't remember what it's called. But that's the story. Like Firefly is the story of Malcolm Reynolds and the crew of the Firefly,
Yeah.
right? And so
Um,
I still haven't heard that. So if you have a whole bunch of you want to tell a bunch of little stories, that's cool. You're building an anthology. Now you're gonna have to write a bunch of little stories.
Yep.
So like you have your setting, you have your world. What are your stories about? Like
Yeah, totally.
you're building a great base. Like you have
Yeah.
you have a lot of things in your world answered. You gotta write the stories though.
Yep. Have you ever seen the anime Mushishi? It's basically a collection of anthologies, but it's got one character who's kind of a through character. He's not actually the protagonist, he's just kind of there when most of the stories happens, and I guess often he either provides an inciting incident for the story, or he provides the expertise to
Yeah.
resolve the story.
Like
Um,
Mad Max.
but the story's never really about him.
Mad Max is Mad Max is told as an anthology, partially because like the author has basically said that Mad Max could be a person, but the movies I'm telling are about the legend of the person. And so basically each of the Mad Max stories, the first Road Warrior I think is about him, but it's like this is the story that people tell about who Mad Max is, and then the rest of them are basically a story. Something is happening in this part of the world, and this person just kind of flies through it as these things are happening, which is cool. I dig that.
Yeah.
Like it's totally fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, anthologies are interesting, but really, like, I think you will run into the problem with anthologies that I don't like anthologies that much. When they're written this way, they're written in a way that they don't have a through point. So like with the Animatrix, it's a bunch of different people writing stories about the Matrix, and a handful of them are really good. A handful of them are just like, I want to see Neo fight a dinosaur, and it's just like, okay. Like they don't have a cohesive story. So a lot of the times when you want to write an anthology, you really want not only to show the world, but you want to choose something that helps you tell that story of the world, right? Like people, like there's always hope. That's one thing you can write, especially if it's in a war, or like people are generally good. Like that's another thing you could write a whole bunch of war stories about people in different parts of the world, you know, not falling into despair and not letting I'm just gonna say letting the bad guys win, right? People are always fighting back. Like rebellion could be the other part I want to talk about. Like there's always rebellion. Even like you could have an entire part or an entire section of it from the perspective of the occupying nation, I'm just gonna say, and you can see how some of those people like fight back while still being militants, like in that area, right? Like I've seen shows like that. That's great. So it really depends on what kind of story you want to tell. Even if you want to tell a bunch, like you still, do they have a common theme? Do they have a common character?
Yeah.
Story writing is difficult.
Yeah. I think it seems like you've got a decent amount of stuff prepared. Like my only advice at this point would be get organized and start writing.
I'll be also making anthologies for leaders' backstories of the nation and rebuild group of betrays and profiteers. Are you? I'm just gonna float this. Are you just remaking One Piece? It's starting
hope
to sound
not.
a little shonen-y to me. Every
One
time we
Piece
meet a
is not
character,
the
we have
only
to do
shonen.
a whole chapter of their backstory. It's like, I don't need that. I don't need that at all. I love Bleach, but you could cut out every single person's backstory, and I think I would enjoy it better.
Yeah.
I will say, Rook, you're like the only person who doesn't like backstories.
I know. It's just like, I feel like your past doesn't matter in most situations. Only your actions. Only the actions I see you do are important.
Captain Unohana's backstory matters to me.
Like, with Demon Slayer, I like Demon Slayer a lot. But, like, if we didn't see the demons' backstories, I think it would just still be good. Like, Tanjiro sees the good in everybody, and so every time we bump into a demon, we kind of have to, like, feel a little pity for them. But it's like, no, like, Tanjiro loves these people even though he doesn't know their backstory. So I don't think we need it. I like seeing the backstories of, like, the other Hashira. That's really cool. Like, we get to know more about them. But, like, yeah, I don't care about the demons. Like, oh, I was a human once. Like, yeah, we know. That's the shitty part about being a demon. But that's just me. That's just me. I don't need that part.
I will just say, you don't have to fight. You don't have to write a story just for a small group of people's tastes.
Yeah, you don't have to
Yeah.
write a story
Yeah.
for me. Yeah, right. You said what? Yeah, so it's kind of the shonen model is, bad guy show up, bad guy fight main character almost loses, main character remembers something he's doing, beats bad guy remembers their backstory, bad guy dies, and or just goes away or becomes friend, right? Like, but that's the shonen model of how this works. And those are slightly anthologies because they're like, we have one through storyline that you're following of the main character trying to do X thing, and then every time you hit a person, you see a tiny vignette of their life. You get to learn a little bit about them, and that's the shonen model, and it works.
I would argue it's the manga model because that's like how mangas succeed. Because
I mean, with the flashback,
all that
yes.
stuff is in, like, there will be like a few, there will be like a chapter or two of like the fight, and then next chapter would be backstory information.
Right.
Jumps back into the fight 2 chapters later.
Yeah, you're right. That's fair.
Because all this stuff is serialized, and so they have to pad it out.
Padding, yeah. The kid is asleep, but he's laying on me, so I'm gonna try to draw.
Like, my only critique of your thing would be, Rook, is just you treat everything very scientifically.
Sure.
Writing isn't scientific. You want
that's
all the
fair.
facts.
Well, no. So I'm arguing that you don't need all the facts.
Well, I guess what I meant was not all the facts, but you just want whatever is going on. I don't care about anything else afterwards, or beforehand. Only the present matters, I guess.
So something I think that's really a good example again with Mad Max, in Fury Road, we didn't get Furiosa's backstory, and I still think she was an awesome and compelling character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they made a movie about her, and I was like, oh, come on. I was happy that we didn't know her backstory. And it was a good movie. Fury Road was a good movie. Or, wait, did I say that wrong?
You mean her backstory movie?
Yeah, the new one that just came out. Is that one?
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah,
I don't like Mad Max.
It might just be called Furiosa. It might
It
not be
probably
this.
is.
It might just be Furiosa. It was still a really good movie. So knowing people's backstories isn't necessarily the bad point. I'm just saying that you don't always have to know the backstory to make the character good, right?
Yeah.
And so with when it comes to Bleach, there's a lot. of times when I just don't care about someone he's fighting, and so their backstory feels like a waste. It's like it's filler in a point that's just like, and this goes more for actually probably Demon Slayer as well. It's just like that guy was just a shitty person, and we had to get past him, and we did. I don't need to know more about them. Like the things that Tanjiro dealt with were important enough that I wish we could have spent more time with his struggle versus the demons drama.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you, Rook, in
But it's not
writing.
all the time. It's not all the time.
Yeah. In writing, it's a principle of good writing. Was it Mark Twain, I think, who was writing a letter to a friend and said, I didn't have enough time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one.
Okay.
And the principle is like it's really easy to just word vomit. It's really difficult to
Be
put
concise.
only the important information on the page,
Yeah.
right? Because you have to do a lot of editing. And I tend to agree with you about like there being too much backstory, and with Bleach, actually with most anime, there being way too much filler. The problem with a lot of that is like you distract from the main story. You like writers tend to lose the plot, and that means viewers tend to lose the plot as well.
And I
so
think
there's
I think going back to like Bleach is still good. I still like Bleach. And One Piece, I think One Piece is just kind of inherently guilty of this, of just kind of meandering. But like even Naruto, like they do it every time. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Like right, like so I Corvus, you're right. Like it can just be me being nitpicky. Because I think at a certain point like that it works. It's good. People enjoy it. It's a good way to tell a story.
I think it comes down to the writer being able to understand the information that is important and the information that is not. For some anime, that villain backstory is important information for the story, for where the story is going, and so it's not necessarily a bad thing to include. But when it really detracts from the story that is currently being told, then it feels superfluous, and then it just feels like filler.
I will say, Jared, a lot of anime have gotten better recently with like not having filler. Ironically,
Yeah.
it's because they only make anime of manga that at least have like 100 chapters, so they actually have more stuff to work with.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
filler
good.
is almost non-existent, except for like bits in anime where like it's like a transitional episode,
So
like where they're going from one arc to another arc. They will like
oh, I hate those. I skip
kind of
those
make a
episodes
pseudo.
every time.
Yep. Bleach is only watchable if you cut all of that shit out.
Recap episodes, I think what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
the transitional.
Yeah.
Except for the Zanpakuto Rebellion, because that one's actually really good.
That one was really good. That was really good.
I didn't
And
like
Kubo
that one.
actually wrote it.
So what I'm saying is like none of these things are bad, right? These are trope
Yeah.
systems that make anime. I think you don't always need those. Like Free Ren did a really good job of looking back as part of the story.
Like, that's nothing but backstory.
It's exactly. Like Free Ren is refreshing to me to watch because it's chill, it's ambience, and it is essentially all the stuff that annoys me about other animes done in, I think, a very nice way. And so instead of them just pausing the episode in between a huge fight to go remember something that happens, Free Ren is reliving that memory in the present. And I appreciate that. I think it's great. I hope more animes kind of take that aspect of it. Because I really like it. I really like the way that they're doing that with Free Ren.
In terms of
What does a laser sword look like, or a hammer look like, by the way?
a laser
Those are-
hammer,
It was a plasma axe.
Plasma axe. Okay. Does that
Yeah.
does the head made out of plasma, or does it shoot plasma?
I was just imagining some like a weird little like lightsaber axe.
Sweet, I can do
Yeah.
that.
Or you could do something like the Magnum bullets with all of
That's
the
exactly what I was thinking of.
yeah
Just like hard light.
yeah the hard light antlers on our villain who's I mean he really is a
Big moose, boss moose.
well I was gonna say he's an android antelope basically.
So Red, just we've been bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
I do think the best advice we can give you is look at your story, and this is something I've done in the past. If you really love comic books, the question is, do you want to write comic books, do you want to draw comic books, or make comic books? And I ask it that way because sometimes you have a really good story and you're bad at drawing, so you hire an artist to draw your comic book, and you spend all of your effort and love writing a beautiful story. And sometimes, like me, I want to draw a comic book and I have a really cool idea and I can't write for shit. So I take my ideas and I go to my friends who are writers and I'm like, here's 4 paragraphs. Can you write me a short snippet of what you think would happen in this world that I can draw? And they're like, hell yeah. Right? Like, so you want to make comic books. Yeah, then it really is, I think, sitting down and like reading up on some books like shoot, what's his name? I would get up and get the book, but I have a baby on me. Look up the how to make comic books, and then look up how to write comic books. There's a bunch of really good basic comic format, like comic script formats. That's what you need to look. You need to look up comic script writing or comic script layouts. Because the first step is you make your world, which it sounds like you've got pretty well, and then you need to write a story.
Yeah.
And then once you have that story written, you need to put it into a comic book script format. And I very much suggest writing your story first before you do this, because if you jump right into this, comic scripting format is just messy as shit. Like, it's weird. I even know how to draw a whole body on my community post. Even know how to draw a whole body on my community. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Even know. Yeah. So that's
my advice
tips.
is just get organized.
Yep. Just stay as organized as you can, and plug away and have fun with it.
Hopefully, we've said something useful in all of our meandering.
Yeah. That's the advice I can give. And if you're already doing that, then you're on your way. You're on your way.
Yeah. It's kind of too bad Burning is at work. I think Burning's got more comic writing and drawing experience than any of us.
I don't want to like. I think 100% Burning it would be the person to talk to about this, because he is more experienced than I am. I've only written and drawn a handful of garbage. But I think Burning very much does kind of start at the end step.
Yep.
And then he kind of taps out.
Works backwards.
Yeah. And so I really would suggest that he actually like slow down and do the steps. But he does it. And like that's the biggest hurdle is actually just starting and doing it. So
yeah, like most creative processes, it is like you can look how everybody else does it, and that can be extremely useful, but the most important thing is you figuring out how you are going to do it.
Yep. I was gonna sit down and talk about video games today, because I want to. But I have to pay my student loans, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll make video games. That's a highly lucrative field that's easy to get into. But I thought about doing that today, and I want to finish up with your suggestion. But I think that might be, especially next month, I think the channel's going to refocus to commissions. Days I don't have commissions, it's going to be D&D development for the Patreon games, which I'm hoping will be once or twice a month. And then after that, it's going to be video game development. And
Nice.
that's my goal for next year. Like that's what I want to do. So we'll start setting that up again. But I have basically everything set up development wise for a game, and now it's just a matter of, okay, if we start building this, how do? And
Yeah.
so it's gonna be a long process of trial and error and see what we come up with. But I have all the base mechanics laid out and concepts laid out, and now it's just a matter of how would I implement that in a video game, and we'll do that. Yeah, it's amazing. When I was in college and high school, I hated writing. I just hated it. And what I discovered is I actually don't hate writing. I'm not terrible at writing. I just don't like writing shit for other people. And it's the same about cooking and drawing. It's just like when someone else is forcing you to do something that you're not really interested in, it kind of saps all the passion out of it.
Yeah.
And so
Jeez, what a selfish person you are, Rook. I'm
Yep.
joking. Full on joke.
so it's really hard to like to do that.
So I threw in a plasma axe if you wanted a reference.
Oh, you did. Let me look. I'm in Discord and Draw, so I need to look at that. Oh, so it does actually exist in the Warhammer universe? Okay. That's not plasma, that's magma. That's a magma axe.
Kiss my ass.
Plasma is a Plasma's weird.
I don't even know if it actually is called plasma
Oh, okay.
axes. I just know I called it the plasma
Gotcha.
axe.
Plasma is interesting because it's a state of matter that is fickle.
Yeah.
You take a gas and you heat it up so much that it becomes plasma. Kind of on fire, but not really. Fire's a plasma, I think. I think fire's a plasma.
Does anybody else here watch Nile Red's YouTube channel?
Sometimes. I watch him when I like wake up at 3 in the morning and can't sleep.
I could not sleep last night. I
couldn't
went
either.
to bed. I even like Druid knows, like I even said like I don't want to play D&D last night because if I do, I'm not going to be able to gain sleep. I went to bed early as I normally could. Woke up several times throughout the night. It's like, what time is it? Oh my god, it's only 2 o'clock. Fall asleep. What time is it? 3:30. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
I hate this.
Oh, that's the worst.
I went to bed last night because I was so tired. At like 11?
Mm-hmm.
And then I woke up at like 2 o'clock and I was just like, I'm fully awake. I'm just awake right now. Like,
Yep.
crap. So I read a book for an hour and a half and I went back to bed. How was everyone doing today? I'm doing pretty good now.
Yeah. I had a rough start to the day.
Yeah.
My
I'm
aunt
still
was
too tired
late. And I went to the wrong place at the hospital. And I sat in the waiting room for like 40 minutes before someone actually called me. And then I had to like rush across the other building to the 3rd floor. And it's like, God, I hate this.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Pirate Software's take on dwarves?
Yes.
Dwarves are
No.
parasites.
The
And the
a
dwarf is
dwarf is
actually the
actually
beard.
only the beard.
It's only the beard.
The beard is a parasite. If you put it on a normal person and they become a dwarf.
Because it's slowly
They-
sapping the life away from them.
Yeah, they're always short because you put a beard on a baby and it takes half of the nutrients, so they can't grow.
Dear Lord.
And that's why women can have huge beards.
Yeah.
And women can have beards. It's just a beard.
Yeah, I don't watch Pirate Software a lot. He just occasionally comes across my shorts, and that's it.
I find his the War of Cursed Knowledge and like dad jokes that he has with his chat to be extremely funny.
I remember seeing a short that he put out with all his ferrets.
Yeah, he has a ferret rescue. That is.
He has an army of ferrets.
Yeah, it's funded by Twitch.
Pretty much.
It's funded by Twitch, which is really funny.
Yeah. His put up a second channel to show all of the ferrets they've rescued. Didn't it become like monetized? Like he told his normal chat about it, and he wanted it to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's self-sufficient.
And like within 2 days, it was paying for itself just with the ad revenue, and they just constantly have ferret cam up all the time.
Dear Lord, that must be
24-hour
nice.
stream.
Yeah,
24-hour stream
seriously.
of ferrets.
Yeah, it must be very nice.
Yep. Hey Thor, come support Rook's channel.
You want me to draw cool stuff for you? I draw cool stuff. I was thinking about that. I want to make more stickers, but I don't have $30 to make more stickers. It's like, how do I get people to fund sticker creation besides Patreon? I need to start promoting that more. I need to find a way to say, hey, I want to make this a sticker. Either A, join the Patreon, or donate $2 and I'll send you a sticker. And I don't know how to do that. But I want to figure that out. 'Cause I want more stickers. I want the Patreons to just get like inundated with stickers everywhere. If the Patreon ever gets up to like $900 a month, I will buy a sticker printer, like a legitimate vinyl sticker printer. And I will mass produce that shit. And I will start a small company making stickers.
I'll just come home and open mailbox and it's just filled with the brim of stickers. So I was like, oh no.
That'd actually be really interesting.
Printing your own stickers?
No, like I'm thinking about what would the minimum amount of money be required to send stickers to all the Patreon members instead of just like the $5 tier. Because like right now the $5 is basically just paying for the sticker and shipping. Because it's such a small order. Because like shipping anywhere in the US is always going to be $1. It just, that's what it costs right now. It costs $1 to send something. So, so that's that. And then the stickers I buy online.
That price might go up soon.
Yeah. Or just like the postal service will shut down. Who knows? The stickers themselves cost somewhere between like $1.50 and like $3 a piece. So saying like $5 is a pretty fair thing. But we have like 40 or 50 people in the Patreon. We only have 30 people now in the Patreon. So that means to give everybody a sticker, regardless of if they're paying the $5 thing, I'd need to make like $400 a month to do that. Which is not how much I have. So, and then the more people that join, the more that's gonna cost. So I don't know if that's something that is possible.
Yeah.
We'd have to have some big pockets funding the sticker.
Yep.
Sticker on.
Find you a nice sponsorship.
Yeah. Dear Sticker Mule. Womp womp.
Dear Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh no. No. I will leave this channel.
Dear Squarespace.
Dear Squarespace. NordVPN.
Acceptable.
Kobold Charlatan Bard Rogue with a mandolin.
Weirdly enough, my mind did not go to instrument first, but to the cooking implement thing.
Choppy thing?
Yep.
I freaking cut myself with that all the time and I hate it.
Yep. They're like, stop trying to be a hero and get all the potato cut.
Yeah.
Throw away the nub, it's fine.
Just throw away the end of it.
And use the damn guard.
Oh man, I use the guard and I still take chunks out of my fingernails and stuff.
Yeah, I would love one because my knife skills suck. and just like I would lose a finger.
You really just like the inherent issue with it is that for people that don't know, I'm talking about one of these things. It's got a blade
Japanese
right here.
mandolin.
Yeah, and you put little tomatoes on it, and you go wah wah wah, and it cuts it. You inherently use these in a restaurant versus a knife because one, it's uniform. This is going to be perfectly uniform every time, and two, you can do it real fast. Like you can go through an entire bag of tomatoes just like super quick. So that's why you use one. The problem is the faster you go with it, the more dangerous it becomes. So it's like it's inherently the best way to use these is to go slow, which defeats the purpose of using it. So it's like
But yeah, I will love one because I would love to start like cooking. We have so many potatoes this year, like need something to do with them.
I got that and I started making like air fried French fries. But I've since gone back to just cutting them with a knife and still making the French fries. Just because the weird thing about that, like to do it safely, you have to use the guard. But if you want to use the guard, the potato can only be this big, which makes really short French fries.
Yep.
And yeah, so I just chop it up with my knife, and I make really long, like whole potato length French fries. I love them.
Yeah.
Should have got kicked out again. I have to see if I have something set wrong. That is weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Discord has also been. We'll just like.
Bry's been in and out constantly. Yeah.
Go,
Discord's been
go red on
shitty.
me, and like, I'll stop hearing and talking to people. It's weird. Sorry, what was that, Druid? I cut you off.
No, just mentioning Bry's been. I don't think you've been as aware, but Bry has unfortunately been in and out of the Discord.
Gotcha.
Basically constantly the entire time.
Corvus, I can show you how to cut a potato very easily if you want.
Corvus stepped away as also.
Dang it.
I learned all of my knife skills from watching Good Eats back in the day. Because Alton Brown actually did a show about it.
Yeah. The trick to good knife skills is good cutting board, sharp knife, going slow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cleaning the house to decide if I want to move. I've cleaned out a lot. That's cool. It's always good to like break things down.
Yep.
Not cutting your hands, also good. Yeah, that should be the step one.
Yep.
Of knife
That is,
skills.
I mean, that is step one, isn't it? Step one for learning knife skills is learning how to hold your hand so it's significantly less likely you're going to cut yourself.
Yeah, you gotta learn the claw.
Yep.
Claw's good.
Anyway,
I've been in kitchens for decades, and like I like knives, so lots of cuts when I was really young because I just was stupid. So I have lots of experience, and it always blows my mind when I try to teach a new person how to be in a kitchen, because I assume because they worked at like Arby's that they have basic knife skills, and a lot of times they don't. And it's just like, oh god, this is gonna get weird.
Yeah.
I still do some things wrong just because I'm more comfortable that way.
Uh-huh.
And so it's safer for me if I'm more comfortable that way, which is a weird thing to say. A really weird thing to say. I have a large garbage pickup already. I got 3 a year. Third one is $100, I think. I'm going to use all of them. Wow.
Damn.
I will take anything worth money.
Maybe you do have too many orange t-shirts, Bri, if you're throwing that many away.
To Goodwill. Right, kid. I got to see if I can set him down. Because my back is going to kill me.
Oh, he's so cute.
This is a pretty funny little adventuring party you've got going on your...
Yeah, I think this is a better way to do it. Because now, like, if people are coming into the chat, they kind of see what we've been working on all day.
Mm-hmm.
But that would require... we could make the next one, like 4 or 5 times as big and just use smaller parts of the page. Oh,
Yeah.
kid. Hey, kiddo.
He managed 15 seconds.
Did not work. It is almost 2 o'clock, so we're probably pretty close to being done.
Yep.
I want to finish up this cobalt.
You want some Cheerios? Maybe. Can I spill them all over the floor, please?
And flip the bowl over. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. One on the bottom is strong as he. One in the middle is 3. One on the top is pretending to be. Or pretending not to be, I guess. 3 kobolds in a trench coat. Kind of want to play 3 kobolds in a trench coat. I think it would be really fun.
It's something that I've always wanted to see someone do, and something I have no desire to do myself.
I've done it as an NPC with 3 goblins. 3 goblins in a trench coat is pretty good. But like, really the way you have to play it as a single character,
Yep.
and the kobold in the middle basically doesn't do anything. It's like, make me a check for your core strength.
The guy at the top is the brains, the guy in the middle is the abs, and the guy on the bottom is the quads.
Tag still on wasted money. I mean, it sounds like you need to have a yard sale. Have a yard sale.
Yeah.
Right? Sell all those shirts for $5.
Either that, or it sounds like you live in a hoarder house, Bry, which is in and of itself a different problem.
So I want to have a little bit of political talk before we end the stream, but not really. And what I mean by that is, when do we get to start having superheroes now that we have Lex Luthor as the president?
That's a good question.
Like, do you sign up for it? Like, how do you join the Justice League?
Yeah.
Are they going to hand out superpowers? How's that going to work?
How are we gonna finagle the fact that vigilantism is illegal?
Is it?
Yes.
It is here in Washington. Our superhero got thrown in jail. But that's because he was on meth. But I don't know how I feel about that one. I can't live in a hoarder house. I donate too much. Yeah, I mean, have a yard sale and then just donate the money. Like, cut out the middleman. I honestly like yard sales because I like being a merchant.
I like going to yard sales because I love finding like cool little treasures.
Yeah.
I feel about yard sailing the way Adam Savage does. Like, I'm always looking for the thing that I have no idea what it is.
Last summer, I bought a stop sign. I went to this yard sale and someone was selling a whole bunch of old, like, they obviously worked for a construction company for a while or stole it, but they had one of those like handheld stop signs, and I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, you want $2 for that? You got it. Like, yes, please. I like them. I just give everything away. Yard sale, free. U-Haul.
Hey, Druid, get out of the dumpster. No, I'm recycling.
I had so many Mormon friends that lived in Salt Lake City and adjacent that just love dumpster diving, and I'm like, I'm
Salt
good.
Lake's a great place for it.
Yeah, it's like I don't want that. We'll go to the Krispy Kreme. We'll get all the old donuts. It's like, no, I'm good. An entire area for 25 cents. Anything you could put in this bag. $1. Dude, bro, that sounds awesome. You should do that this weekend.
Yeah.
Then donate all the money to either like the local charity or your favorite YouTuber.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Monday rolls around and it's like, Markiplier just got donated $2,000 from some guy in Florida. Damn it. Yeah, that's the bowl, kid. You're not supposed to eat the bowl. You're supposed to eat the Cheerios. His teeth must be bothering. He's just chewing on everything. His little bottom teeth are finally like done. They're not all the way out, but they're not like cutting anymore.
Right.
So he's got the little tiny goat teeth.
Yeah.
Just like peeking out. Like, eh. It's funny. It's the funniest thing.
Something about this kobold that you've drawn makes me think that this is going to be the kobold version of the Popcat. I know, yeah.
We should make.
I know you've already done Rugby Popcat, but
yeah,
like,
yeah. I think it's not on the YouTube, is it? It's on Twitch.
Yeah,
It might be in the Discord too. Let's find out. Popcat in here. Pop. Oops. Yeah, Rugby Pop.
Yep.
So good. So funny. I think we're gonna call it there. It's almost 2 o'clock. The kid has calmed down. See if we need some food. I think we're playing tomorrow. Yes.
I believe so. I haven't heard anything otherwise.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're the GM. It's up to you to message everybody and check.
Dang it.
Unless you want me to do it.
No,
If
that's
you ask
fine.
me to, I'll do it.
It's your server. No, it's fine. There we go. Tomorrow, Trial of Blood. Let's go. I don't have anything else. I think that's it. Thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for your suggestions. I hope everybody had a wonderful blah, 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 blah. Halloween last week. This week, I know, is full of heartbreak and despair, and that's okay. We love you.
Or giddy joy, depending on.
Yeah, depending. I'm not gonna say anything. Just know, your people are always welcome here. Like, this is a space to come and talk about D&D and be happy, make friends, talk about art. Nothing else matters. So that's where we are, and we will always try to be supportive of each other. So stay happy, stay healthy, don't be an asshole. Keep your dice on the table. We'll catch everybody next week. I'll post some stuff next week for commissions, and we'll go from there. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.